Here I explain again. Here the syntax of the form tag. Form is the tag. Using this form tag you can create the HTML form. In this form tag you can use some form attributes. First attribute is the action. Action is equal to script URL. You can put the path of the URL in this section. Then method is also attributes of the form tag. The method only have two values, that is get and post. Then you can put form elements in the opening and closing of the form tag. You can put the checkbox, input box, radio buttons in this form element. Then next attribute of the form tag is target. Target means specify the target window or frame where the result of the script will be displayed. And the last attribute of the form tag is name. Using this name attribute you can specify the name of the form. Specify the name of the form. After that you can study the some controls of the form tag. Some controls of the form tag. Some controls of the form tag. Next concept is HTML form controls. HTML form controls. There are different types of form controls that you can use to collect data using the HTML form. There are different controls used for to collect data from the user. These controls are text input control, text input control. Next is checkbox control, checkbox control. Next is radio buttons, radio buttons. Next is select control, select control. Next control is select box controls. Select box control. Select file controls. Select file select boxes, hidden controls, clickable buttons. Select. Next is select box control. Next is clickable command buttons. Command buttons. Submit and reset button. Submit and reset buttons. Here first is input text buttons or text input control. Text input control means you can simply design the text box. User can enter some data in this box, that is text input control. Next checkbox. Checkbox already you can study here. That is you can create the check boxes. User can choose the multiple boxes. Then radio button. Radio button your user can select one value from the list of values. Next is select control. Using this control user can create the list box. Or another is the select box control. User can create the combo boxes. Clickable buttons like the save, OK, cancel, etc. like this. Submit and reset button. Submit. Submit means user can fill the information in the form and then click on submit. This information can stored in some database servers. Resets means user can fill some information, then click on reset. All informations are resets. This such type of you can create by using the submit and reset buttons. All these are the HTML form controls. All these control buttons, all these control elements you can use, you can apply it in HTML form. You can study it here. We can study it here. Next, one more example to create how to create form. How to create form. Using creating form, you can use some. When we create HTML form, then you can use these elements, form elements in HTML form. To create the attractive form, you can apply these elements while creating the form. You can study all these form elements. Next, you can study details all these elements. Students, here we study the first elements of the form tag is text input control. Text input control. Text input control, there are three types of text inputs used on form. There are three types of text inputs used on form. First is single line. First is single line text input. In single line text input, only single line user can enter some data in single line. This control is used for items that requires only one line of user input. Such type of element is called single line text input. They are created using the HTML. There, this text box is created using HTML. Using HTML input tag. Input tag. This tag is used to create the single line text input. Then second type of the text input control is password input control. Next is the password input control. This is also single line input text box, but different is when user can input some text in this password input text control box, the characters are automatically hide or mask the character as soon as user enters it. Okay, password input control, this is also single line text input, but it masks the character as soon as the user enters it. They are also created using the input tag. This password input control also used by using the input tag. Input tag is used to create the single line input controls. This input tag is used for both single line text box, also used for password input control. Okay, next third type is multi-line. Third type is multi-line input control. Multi-line input control. In this element you can use like multiple lines text box. This element is used to create for required to give details the larger data. This is used when the user is required to give details that may be longer than a single sentence. Multi-line input control are created using the HTML tag text area tag. Using the text area tag. Text area tag is used to create multi-line input control. Okay, input tag is used to create password input control as well as single line input text control. These are the three types of text input used on form. These are the examples. These three are the examples of the text input controls. Text input control. All these three are the text input controls. Students, here we study one more common example, simple example on the text input control. Text input control. For example, on text input control. Here is the basic example of single line text input used to create first and last name of the student. Student can fill the only first name and last name in single line or text input control. Single line text input control. So the basic example is here HTML. First tag is HTML head. Next is title. Title is text input control. Close title. Next is close head. Next is start the body tag. In body tag you can use the form tag. In this example you can accept only first name and last name of the student. Okay, form. Here you can write first name. First name is the here label. You can on form display only the here first name. Then next you can here use the input tag. Input type is equal to text. Input type is equal to text. Here use another attributes of the input tag is name. Name is equal to first name or use the F name. Then close angle bracket. close angle bracket. Then use br tag. Br tag means next line. Here use br. The meaning of the br tag is break the line. Next is last name. Last name. Input type is equal to text. Input type is equal to text. Name is equal to L name. Name is equal to L name, last name. Then here use br tag. Br tag, and then use close form close body tag, close form tag. This is the common example, basic example of single line text input used to take first name and last name. The output of this form is displayed this like here first name, here display first name, and then here display the text box. Then here you use br tag means break line. After break line you can write here last name. Last name. After this last name you can use input type is equal to text, name is equal to L name. L name input type is equal to text. Text means here display one more text box. The output of this example is like this. Okay, this is the basic example of single line text input is used to take first name and last name. This is the example of the text input control. Then here you can extend this same example. For example, you can write here, for example, password. Password. Then you can use here input. You can use here password. Then you can write here a colon is also displayed here. Then password input type is equal to password. You can use here password along with the text. You can use password, the value of the input type is equal to password, name is equal to PS angle bracket close, then close form tag, close body tag, close HTML tag, and then complete this example. Password input type is equal to password. Here password field is display. This is the basic example of single line input used to take first name, last name and password of the user. This is the common example on the text input control. Students, this is the example on the text input control. You can use here simple input tag is used for to accept the single line text input control. In this example, you can accept the first name and last name and password from the user. In next point, you can study the basic or the main attributes of the input tags are the main attributes of the input tags are input tag attributes. Input tag attributes. Following is the list of attributes for input tag to creating text field. First attribute is input tag attributes. First is type. Type is a attribute of input tag. Type indicates the type of input control, and for text input control it will be select to text. It will be select or it will be the set. It will be the set text. User can enter the text using input type is equal to set the text. Single line text box will be created. Then next attribute of the input tag is name. Okay, name is the attribute of input tag used to give a name to the control which is sent to the server to be recognized and get the values. Name is the attribute used to give name to the control which is sent to the server to be recognized and get the values. This is name attribute. And third attribute is value. Third attribute is value. Value is the attribute of the input tag. This can be used to provide initial value inside the control. Initial value inside the control. Value is the attribute of the input tag. This can be used to provide a initial value or by default the value of the input control. The next attribute is size. Okay, size is attribute of the input tag. This size attribute is used to allow to specify the width of the text input control. Allow to specify the width of the text input control in terms of characters. That means how much characters can be stored in particular text box. You can decide using the size attribute. The next is size. Next attribute is max length. Next, fifth attribute of the input tag is max length. Max length means allow to specify the maximum number of character a user can enter into the text box. That is how many characters are stored in particular text field, which is decided by using the max length attribute. Okay, max length attribute is allowed to specify the maximum number of characters a user can enter into the text box. Okay, all these are the attributes which is used in the input tag. I can repeat again these attributes. Input tag attributes. First is a type. Type indicates the type of input control, and for text input control it will be set as a text. Okay, value of the type attribute is text. You can use text, then text box is created. Okay, next attribute is name. Okay, name is used to give name to the control. You can give the name to this control by using the name attribute, and the control which is sent to the server to be recognized and get the values by using the name attribute. Next attribute is value. This can be used to provide the initial value inside the control. Next is the size attribute. Size, you can specify the width of the text input control in terms of character. You can decide the width of the text field by using the size attribute. And then last attribute is max length. Max length allow to specify the maximum number of characters a user can enter into the text box. Okay, all these are the attributes: type, name, value, size, max length. All these are the attributes of the input tag.